Hello again. A reporter from American broadcaster CNN has found herself in the middle of a scandal. The classified State Department email shows she was receiving orders from a government official. In January 2013, Elise Labent was covering a Senate hearing on the US Embassy attack in Benghazi. The email shows she coordinated her posts on Twitter with Philip Raines, who was Assistant Deputy Secretary of State at the time. Now, in the email, Raines writes to Labent about an idea for a tweet. Labent says she will get back to him and writes several minutes later that the job is done. And here is that tweet that Raines came up with and that Labent later posted. It quotes Hillary Clinton, saying she could have kept it all classified, but that's not her way. Several hours after that, Labent and Raines were in touch again. The reporter was apparently double-checking details of Senator Rand Paul's attendance at the inquiry, so that she could claim later in this tweet that he was absent and reject his criticism as irrelevant. She writes, Paul is a little late to the Benghazi game. Author and war correspondent Chris Hedges says journalists depend on access to political elites and are willing to give up many things for that.
That is a relationship that very swiftly and almost usually becomes incestuous, whether it's at the New York Times or CNN or anywhere else. Because, in essence, these journalists depend on access to these elites in order to do their job. And they're not going to get access unless they not only placate, but oftentimes carry water for these elites, and that's just basically what's been exposed. There are always those within the media who are willing to serve as, in essence, courtiers to the powerful, and that's basically what almost all journalists do in Washington.
But CNN, of course, doesn't like to be accused of close ties to the government. A year ago, the channel edited such criticism out of an interview they held with RT's Anissa Nawi.
Yes, of course, we also cite the Russian perspective, and of course, maybe even more so, because that's the perspective that we feel is being sidelined.
Well, that's what went on air. And here's the part that didn't make it to the show.
Do we show more of a Russian perspective? Of course we do, because that's the perspective that's being sidelined. But it's an absurd question coming from someone that's propagated the line of the State Department for over 15 years. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. You've propagated the line of the State Department for over 15 years, starting with Yugoslavia and all the way into Syria.
Well, Chris Hedges again says officials often trade information for favorable coverage.
Those who are in power are not going to leak to them information unless they feel that those journalists will, if not always, certainly often, promote their interests. And that's precisely what we have seen. These reporters, whose careers depended on open access to those who were powerful and essentially made their careers by passing on those narratives.